So, as I'll go through pretty briefly, there's a huge demand out there from business for talent. It's a staggering demand. I'll show you some statistics briefly. And we think we've got a way of doing that. There are others operating in very similar ways who've got overlapping agendas. And I think there's an opportunity here. Maybe the stars are aligned around youth and trying to help youth give something to the future. Here's a quick summary of the problems. There is knowledge in business, in particular, about IT, about technology, etc. But it's not instinctive. It's very haphazard. It comes from a certain degree of usage and not much sort of depth. So there's a need in business to actually know more, to make better decisions and so forth. Another problem is that what you can find to help you is quite scarce, and therefore, the market would demand that it's costly, which can impede innovation and the generation of ideas. There's another massive problem, and that's to do with youth unemployment and motivation and all kinds of issues around that other speakers have alluded to today. But there's an opportunity out there that comes from what the big technology platforms, as we call them, have done. And they've done something which may, to non-technical people, seem curious. They've opened up some of their IP. They give access to the internal workings of their machines, if you like. I'll come on to the term API later. But it's a way by which, in particular, professional software developers can access some of the code that makes up Facebook and Google and Twitter and so on. And what that does is allow you to mash together things really very, very quickly. And it's not just the professional developers can use this. Anybody can use this. Business people can use it. Young people can use it. And that's the opportunity that we think is out there to be used. And of course, there are all those young unemployed people. Many have good qualifications, but they can't get jobs. We heard from the adventurer earlier about filmmaking. We love to find creative people like that because they have these ideas which we help them with tech to turn into something that's a bit special, something that's important to them. It's not about making people techies. It's about firing up their passion and getting them going in a way that is a bit magical at times. So the solution is to somehow get the business people to get better at what they do and introduce them to that young talent and get a great synergy coming from those. Just to give you an idea of some of the numbers, if you look at some of the projections that Gartner produced recently, we're into trillions of dollars of spend on technology in general in the IT area. And there are some fluctuations, as you can see, that reflect the recession, but it's really so much part of our lives now, so much part of business, so much part of government. We can't escape it. So we need to do better with it. The next, you hardly need any statistics about. Your own experience probably tells you just how much mobile devices have changed things. And the reason for putting this up is that the term app has become so much part of ordinary language. It's amazing for somebody like me who's been talking about ideas around this without that little bit of language, that little three-letter word, for decades. And now we've all got some way of talking about these little pieces that can be put together to make something special. We carry them around in our bags and our cases and purses and whatever, and they mean something to everybody. So we can now begin to think of things in small pieces that can be put together. Again, this mashing up idea that we'll come on to. And if you need persuading that business thinks that it's missing some skills, just look at the few slides I'll put up now. O2, the numbers are staggering. 750,000 needed by 2017. You've got Facebook saying that there are a massive skills gap. Facebook almost defines the modern age of tech, not just in how it is appealed to such a variety of people in terms of usage, but in terms of its attitude, the way it goes at things. The the concept of emergence that was talked about earlier and the experimental approach that Tony talked about, it's on the walls in Facebook's office about how many times have you tried today, how many times have you failed, how, that delivered is better than perfect. And they represent such an idea that can be used and it appeals inherently to young people. The trick is to persuade business that it's also good for them, that they can do something without damaging their brand. And it's not just a UK or US thing. This is a global problem. The statistics in Europe are just as attention-grabbing. For me, one of the key things here is that 90%. By 2015, 90% of all jobs. There's no qualification there about technical jobs or anything like that. It's 90% of all jobs will need these skills. We need to get moving really fast. Now, fortunately, there are a lot of people already in the game. Some of them we work in close partnership with, because if you see there's a split roughly across the years. We concentrate on 18 to 25-year-olds, but there are others right down, like Code Club in primary schools, Apps for Good, who've just started this year in Northern Ireland. I think they had 16 or 17 secondary schools signed up, and goodness knows you probably have encountered them in some of your work as well. And the clever thing there is that they have engaged with teachers. They've provided teachers with a way of getting to the young people, very young kids, so that by the time that they're coming through, maybe into university or leaving school for whatever is their passion, for whatever is their route in life, that they've got something that's as basic as writing, because this is what we're talking about, getting this kind of idea across to everybody, that it is simply part of life. It cannot be excluded. It's not for these mythical techies. And Freeformers, as you can see, is up there, and I'll talk a little bit more about us shortly. It was interesting when I was putting these slides together that I came across this call from the CEO of Tech City, which dominates, I think, some of the conversations in London about what we should be doing. And at an IOD talk, she basically encouraged people to take their senior management to courses on coding. The article goes on to talk about why it's possible to do this really quickly and really easily, and then there's some blog comments about that. And the reason why she was confident, I think, in saying that this should happen is because of what I mentioned a few minutes ago, this idea of an API, this idea that in a line or two you can actually do something really dramatic. You can make your little bit of web page talk to Facebook and get stuff back from Facebook. Ideas that were in research journals 15 years ago, it's now commonplace in the tech industry. And just to prove it, this article was basically saying that this whole concept of resources being freely available, largely freely available on the web, is transforming the very notion of what software is, of what IT is. And that gives us an enormous opportunity, which is what we've tried to take. So here's a graphical. This cannot possibly represent the sheer number of resources that are out there, but it gives you some kind of idea. A lot of you may recognize some of those icons from your favorite websites, or your children's favorite websites, or your pupils' favorite websites, or whatever it might be. And very often they're allowing techies, originally, but now anybody, to actually access some of their resources. And you can begin to put things together in a really dramatic way. Just to give you some idea of the growth of this, as you can see the bottom, I just checked today, 10,198 of these API sets out there. That's an enormous, you could not work through those in a lifetime. It means for every idea that every young person has about their future life as fashion designers, in music, on radio, in sports, in whatever turns them on, they can find what they need out there and they can put it together, probably for free. And that's a huge change, and we're trying to use that change. So what we do is we try to teach people, if you like, it's the only time we use that term teach, to be self-sufficient, to actually try to work out what the tools are that they need themselves. How do they create that Google string that will find just what they need? And to experiment, to try, to play about, to not be afraid of any kind of failure. Because if you're running fast enough, you're working fast enough, you can get round the loop and do something more. And it's an idea, too, that works for business. Businesses need this. Businesses have far too long development cycles. They come to us and say, can we get them shorter? And so what we're trying to do is help young people learn exactly what the businesses are telling us that they need. And they're very clear about what they need because they buy from us what they need and they reject any other ideas that they don't need. So if we teach the young people exactly the same set of skills, there's a virtuous circle there. It is mostly funded through this, I think, unique idea that we have, which is a one-for-one model, unique in our business. Some of you may have heard of the likes of Tom's Shoes. It's a very, very similar model. When a corporate engages us and gets us to do a workshop with them, some kind of training, then included in the price is exactly the same training for the same number of young people. And so we have partnerships with charities and youth groups and all kinds of organizations to actually deliver that to where it's needed. And hence we can build up a whole stock of young people, an army of young people, if you like, who are well equipped to develop themselves and then be ready for jobs market and to, in fact, react to some of that demand that the industry needs that I talked about a few minutes ago. At the bottom, you'll see this maybe curious name of Tech Jam. It's an idea we came up with as a club, how we give back to the community, which will sustain the young people that come on workshops and maybe help create a demand for the workshops. And we've worked over the last 9 months on this. And we've got numbers now that are really quite impressive. For about 400 corporate people we've trained, we've managed through the workshops, the one-for-one workshops and the tech jams, to get to about 1,600 young people. And we're ramping that up extremely at the minute. These are some of the people that we have found from our work, and they either have been or still are our trainers. We practice what we preach. We don't put guys like me who've been professionally teachers for years in to give those workshops, to train the corporates. Because it won't be persuasive coming from me if you say, well, actually, I did my degree way back and I got that PhD that was talked about and so on. It's not convincing. If one of these young people say, well, I came across freeformers when they did a workshop for the Princess Trust about a month ago, and then freeformers took me on as a trainee trainer, and now I'm leading these workshops. That's convincing. That helps the corporates understand that they can do it. It helps other young people understand that they can do it. It's a very impressive and powerful mixture. And they're full of enthusiasm. They love what they do. They've had opportunities that they didn't have before. Some of the people there have degrees, but they were unemployed when they came across us. Some people have got very few recognized qualifications. Many of them have complicated lives. They need to constantly change how they work with us because of how life is. And what we're trying to practice, as well as say to everybody who will listen, is these people have talent. They can do things. Give them a chance. Make it happen. If you're not convinced just how big this is, there's a very interesting article, if you just Google that, we're the 8% on The Guardian. It shows really how internet sector and businesses built around the internet are going to overtake traditional industries. It's a remarkable change, and it's happening in a very, very short time scale. And it makes some of those earlier numbers that I put up really take on a sense of urgency. We need to move fast. There's lots of talent out there. We can find it and we can give it a chance. And the Nick Hurd, the UK Minister for Civil Society, put it really nicely. I just read a quote of him, to give our young people the best chance of competing in the global race, we want to give them the opportunity to go from being prolific users to producers of new digital products and content. Now, when I came across this, I got goosebumps, because it's exactly what we're trying to do, and what many of the other people on that diagram describing the ecosystem are trying to do as well. I thought I'd finish with, I've been maybe trying to persuade you rather earnestly, because I really want this to be a message that you take away. One, that it's urgent. Two, that the talent is out there. And three, that there's something that we can do about it. But working with these young people is huge fun. They are promoting something that's coming up next week in Colchester, and this is their way of speaking from young people to other young people. If I'd come up with the poster for that event, it would drive people away. I suspect many in the audience would have the same effect. But these young people, they can speak to their peers. It's not rocket science to get that to happen, but it means that we attract people in. We can put a call out and have 20 or 30 people turn up at an event, and it's because of the young people. I'm going to finish with a video, if I may, again to show the energy and the commitment that these young people have. They couldn't be here with me today. I would have loved it if one of them could have been here. So I thought I'd show you something which was, the task was to come up with a little video to show how easy it is to put together a prototype of a mobile app in one of our one-day workshops. And when the young person, Max, got the job done and realized he'd got bags of time on his hand, he thought he'd use another free mobile app to put together something a little bit more exciting so you can remember what it's like to actually create one of these prototypes. If we could see the video, please.